So hi there, it's Babs here, and I'm going to be talking about Mailchimp today. There have been a few questions come through in the last couple of days, and I know that people have been asking quite a few questions recently around Mailchimp anyway. So I'm going to work through the three questions that I've been given first, and then what I thought I'd do is take you through the new layout of the back end, because I'm beta testing at the moment the new layout for editing, which is actually really much easier to use and is much more intuitive, which makes it easier for technophobes and those who aren't coding experts. And I'll also talk about the different types, the two main different types of campaign, and how you set up an automated campaign versus a standard campaign. So it's not going to be massively in-depth training, but hopefully it will cover enough of what people are asking about to be able to get them up and running. So the first question was, I don't have a logo, can it still work? And the answer to that is a resounding yes. Just use fonts, use boring colors, use plain colors, not boring colors, that's a silly thing for me to say. Use plain colors. You can use photographs and your name or your company name, even if you don't have a logo. Just using an attractive font can be sufficient. That's all you need to do. So don't get too hung up on the idea that you need to have some sort of a beautifully, expensively designed logo to get you started. If what you need to do is start building your mailing list, just get on with it and start with some text in your headers, and don't worry about the rest. That will come with time. The second question was about multilingual newsletters. Mailchimp does translate into 50 different languages, I believe, and it auto translates them. It gives you have two different ways of doing it. You can either write 2 copies of your newsletter and send it out depending upon where a subscriber is based, or you can use the auto translate option, which will take the browser language of your recipient, and it will use Google to translate into a different language for you. The code that you would use, where you pick somebody's name, you use the merge tag of fname in square brackets. In this case, you would use the merge tag of translate with the 2-character code for the language that you're writing the newsletter in. So if I was writing the newsletter in English, I would put translate EN, and then it would be translated into a variety of languages, including Polish, French, and Norwegian. There's as I said, there's a whole host of them. What I will do is actually put some links together around this particular part and show you where you can find the extra information that you need to set that up for yourself. But it really is as simple as putting in a merge tag around a block of content and then letting Mailchimp and Google do the hard work. If you prefer to create 2 different newsletters so that you are absolutely controlling the content, then you can very easily write one, duplicate it, and then translate it so that you're not having to recreate everything from scratch each time. Hey, excellent. I'm glad that's answered your question, Petra. So you have those 2 ways of handling it. Either you can, if you are lucky enough to be multilingual, then you can write your own copy out multiple times and just send those depending upon where people are based. Or you can use the automatic translation process. I'm just going to let my dog out before she actually digs her way out through the back door. 1 second. There we go. Sorry about that. That's what that strange noise was in the background, if you could hear that. And then we have a question about the different types of newsletter. One of the bonuses of Mailchimp is that it provides you with a huge array of templates and looks and types of newsletter. That can also then be a double-edged sword in that you find it difficult to decide which type of newsletter to use for what product or service or type of newsletter you're sending out. Some simple rules around newsletters are keep it simple. That's my mantra anyway, is keep it simple. With newsletters, you really, really do want to keep it simple. Don't get overly excited about graphics and putting pretty pictures in and putting pretty links in, because the more of those you put in, one, it becomes very difficult for your reader to read the newsletter. There's one I've been sent, and this lady is so excited about the fact that she's got this brand new design, and it absolutely is stunning and it looks gorgeous, and she's so proud of it. And I can't read anything on her newsletter now. There's circles and squares and things covering over other bits and pieces, and it's so hard to find the content. I think, unfortunately, she's really missing a trick with trying to make it overly pretty. It feels very, very overworked, and I just can't find the content. So I unsubscribed, which is probably not what she was going for with her pretty new template. The number of times a complex newsletter will be rejected goes up by the different mailing systems. So the more images you have in there, the more complicated it is, the less likely it is to be accepted through to where you want it to get, which is somebody's inbox. So definitely the things that you need to keep in mind for a newsletter are typography, simple colors and consistent colors. So I would suggest that you pick 2 fonts, you pick 2 colors along with gray and white, and you keep the number of images that you want to share down to a minimum, 1 for a header, maybe 1 in a footer, and 1 for the actual product that you're looking at. Or if it is a single postcard style newsletter, then just go for the one image. You can incorporate your name or your logo into that image rather than having to have it somewhere separate on the newsletter. But definitely keeping it simple is going to be far more beneficial for you, whichever style of newsletter you use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen now and hope that the technology is going to work. And I will walk you through the new back end and also show you how to set up 2 different types of campaign. One being I'm just sending 1 email to 1 or 5,000 or however many people you have in your mailing list person, and then also how to set up an automated mailing. I'll show you one of my automations that's in place for the Mythical Cow. That's, I think, probably the longest that I've got at the moment, and it's continuing to grow because it's a 12-month cow, so there's a lot of newsletters that go out in that one. So I will show you that. Bear with me while I try and get this tech to work. So hopefully the screen is coming together now. Ha! Excellent. Right. Can you see me or can you see my screen? I'm waiting for feedback now from Petra. The screen, excellent. In that case, I shall carry on. There's nothing worse than me whittering on and thinking I'm doing things and you can't see anything that I'm talking about. So this is the screen that you get to when you look at your campaigns, and you can see some the things that you've sent recently, all your ongoing automated campaigns or anything that you've got scheduled waiting to come up. You can also separate out anything that you're working on that's in draft. As you can see, I've been working on the review and refocus for 2018. And then you can also look at any of your completed campaigns. Now, what we're going to do is actually create a new campaign, which I think is underneath. There it is. Let's move that over there. So you create a campaign over here with the dark grey create campaign button. It's nice and simple to try and help everybody along. And this is where Mailchimp starts helping you. So what is it that you want to do? And one of the new functionalities that they have is that you can create a landing page, which I'm not going to go over today. You can also create adverts on Facebook and I think Instagram. And obviously you can create an email. So what we're going to do is click on the create an email option. Now, there's 4 versions of emails that you could pick. As I say, this is the double-edged sword. So if you're not 100% sure of what it is, then you know, this can be a little bit overwhelming. So regular is a normal email that has graphics in it and and links and buttons and all sorts of pretty things. Automated is a regular email, but that's, you don't have to send. It sends because an action has taken place. So if somebody subscribes to a mailing list, for example, you would use an automated newsletter to reply to them and say, welcome, thank you so much for showing up, and here's something fabulous for you, and I'm inviting you to do something else, and next week I'll come back and tell you about some other good stuff that we've got. That kind of thing would be an automated newsletter. And then each week you can have different standard letters set up that get sent out to your customers or your community, depending upon what it is that you're creating or developing at that time. Plain text is exactly what it says. It is just text. This is the core of a newsletter, with no graphics, no pretty buttons. It's just links and text. Plain text is almost guaranteed to get through every system that may or may not block or filter out spam, because there is nothing overly exciting in it. It is pure text. And then A/B test is where you would test two different types of newsletter. So if you were potentially selling a new pattern or selling some new yarn, then you could create an A/B test, and that allows you to try out different images or different calls to action for your content, and then it will compare the two and see which one performs better, so that you can reuse those elements or that wording or that image style, so that it converts to more sales for you going forward. So you can try to start testing your newsletters, but that's something for people who are more confident in creating their newsletters, and for something when they've got their head around A/B testing. You can A/B test everything. So it's like saying there's a newsletter that says, yeah, I can't be bothered with this wonderful thing that will get me loads of money, so I'm going to click no. Or you could do an A/B test that says, yes, please sign me up for this. And they're both two buttons that you're trying to see which one is going to be more convincing for people to sign up to. The reverse psychology thing is quite big at the moment. I don't like it. It's not for me. But that's an example of how you could use A/B testing for your audience and see which one generates more clicks. Is it the nice one, or is it the one that tries to embarrass people into clicking on the button? As I say, it's not a style that's for me, but it's an option. So you can test out how well different elements of your campaigns are performing. So we're going to go in and create an email now. So I'm just going to create a test mail, and I'm going to call it something very simple so that I can clear it out afterwards, which is test mail. And then I'm going to begin. And this will very quickly show you the new layout. So everything, rather than being in a border along the bottom, is now vertically aligned. Hey, we have a new joiner. And so this is probably not what you're used to seeing, but this will soon be the new version of Mailchimp. And so you start off saying who you're sending your mailing list to. So you can pick a list, and then you can segment it down. So if I pick Yarn Academy, and then I'm going to say that I want a segment, you can use the segment that you've already built, or you can use the grouping up here, group or new segment. So when people sign up for a challenge, I always include that as a group. So go that under topics. And I'm going to say, find your focus. I'm not going to send this one out, so it doesn't matter, but these are the different groups that I have. And you can update recipient counts so that you can make sure that you've got the right number of people that you're expecting to have. You can set it by date. You could look at when they were added. You can look at campaign activity. So did they receive a particular email? And various bits and bobs. So the language, you can use the language. So Petra, if you were looking at different options, you can set different newsletters to be sent to different languages. So if you were duplicating your content, then this would be one way that you could then not use the translate merge tag, but you would have a written out version that you've crafted yourself in whichever language you're then looking to send out to. So you could set one in English, you could set one in Polish, for example. And there's a great whole list of people, and you can just choose which language it is that you're looking at. So there's a whole host of options of ways to segment your newsletter list. So yeah, let's just go back to that. And then generally personalizing the to field is a good idea. It will put somebody's name in the to, and then here you can see, if I move this out the way, you can see that you've got the merge tag that you're going to use, and you've got first name, last name, or combination of the two. Generally, I stick with first name because that's the information that I request when people sign up to my lists. And then if we scroll back up again, you can set who it's coming from. Ooh, let's move you out of the way. So you can set who it's coming from. So in my case, that would be me, and that should already be set up. And then you can create your subject. And again, you can do A/B testing on subject lines, but that's where I can't spell either today. That E key really doesn't want to come in and play. There we go. There can be samples of good subject lines, examples of subject lines that have worked in the past. You can have emojis and smileys. Don't try to use them instead of words, but to pretty up a subject line around it. And then we'll save that. And then content. Now you can either design an email from scratch, or you can go and grab a template that you've saved, or if you don't have a template saved, you can actually go and get a campaign that you've already completed. So if I look at some of the campaigns that I've done in the past, you can see that I've got the brioche challenge, I've got an abandoned cart message, I've got Yarn Academy, weekly newsletter formats, I've got mythical cow format, and all of those are different. I haven't gone in and saved any of those. They just happen to be there because they are campaigns I've sent in the past. So you can pick one to reuse, and then it fills in everything that you've worked on in the past for you. So you will have all of your links in the bottom of the footer. You've got your header image, and the layout is as you've already spent time working on creating. So once you've got one that works, you can reuse it really, really easily. And then you just go through and change whatever it is you want to do. So you can replace the header with some other image. And then you go through and edit text. You can add buttons, box text, dividers, all sorts of things. The same as if you've used Mailchimp before. You can add links, and I'd avoid the coding section if I were you. But you can sell products. You can put in social links. You can have sales. With promotional codes to offer people that have nicer formatting. So there's an awful lot that you can do with the newsletter. So I'm going to pretend that this one is now finished, and I'm going to save that and move on. And then you get the option to post to Facebook, you get the option to tweet it out, you'll get a sample image which you can then preview anytime you like. And you can look at the setting and tracking information. So at the moment, I'm not doing anything pretty much. I'm tracking opens, I'm tracking clicks, and if I want to change any of those, I click on edit and we'll be able to go through and change that. I also get the option to finish it later on, which just puts it in draft status. I can schedule it to be sent out on a particular date and time, or I can just hit the blue button and send it now. Obviously, as this is a testing one, I'm not going to do any of that. I will leave it as finish later. So that's how you create a very, very simple newsletter that you're sending out to as a one-off occurrence. Now, if you want to create something that is part of an automation sequence to say, welcome to a newsletter, for example, you can go through and create automated. And then you get all sorts of options here. So it could be that you're setting up for an annual event, such as somebody's birthday, or you're sharing a blog update, so that links through automatically to your blog. You can welcome people, you can look at subscriber activity. So as soon as somebody joins a list, you can welcome them, and that's the one that most people look at. And then you get a choice of one welcome message, an onboarding series of newsletters. So welcoming them in, and then a week later talking about the style of product that you particularly work with, or introducing them to your Ravelry shop or other places they can find you. And then a week after that, some other newsletter about new products that you've got, or some historical products, or some special offers that you'll always be offering people in the first 2 or 3 weeks, so that they automatically get used to seeing your newsletters. And then an education series is if you're running a training course, and then you are you're looking at creating a series of tutorial style newsletters. So we're just going to go with the bog standard welcome message. I'm going to pick my list, same as before, and I'm going to start. And it looks slightly different this time, because now we're actually adding different emails in and then different triggers. So you've got the list name at the top, and then you've got different triggers. So at the moment it's defaulting to 1 day after somebody's joined. I want it to be immediate, so I'll change that to immediately. And you can also trigger it when people are imported into your mailing list or into a particular group. And then you can change the schedule, but pretty much every day, it means that every day it's going to look to see if somebody new has joined. Or you can say that you only want to send once a week, in which case it will only send once a week if those options are set for your mailing list. And then you can go in and design the email as you have before, and you go through and set the various subject lines, etc. There we go. And then again, you can pick from a saved template or campaigns that already exist. And once you've picked out your format, you go through and edit it as you would. Once you've completed that, which we will pretend that we have, it will then take you back through and show you your newsletter in the sequence. So this is the email that I'll be sending as soon as somebody joins. And then I'm going to add a second email, which can be sent a week later, and so on and so forth. So you can create as many emails in your welcome sequence as you wish, or you can just leave it at 1. So what I'm going to do is just exit that, go to my campaigns, and I will show you an existing campaign that I have set up for the mythical cow. So let's move this again. Ongoing. We'll show you all of your automated newsletter systems that you have. So we've got mythical cow here. So I want to have a look at that. Come on. There we go. And so here you can see that I've got an immediate trigger as soon as somebody signs up. And you get to see how many people it's been sent to, how many are in the queue, the click rate, the open rate, all of the statistics that you would normally get. But you can see them for individual emails. And then I've got 2 days after that, I send one. 1 day after that, I send one. 4 weeks after that, they get sent another. And then it's every 4 weeks they get a different block within the cow. So that's how the automated newsletters would work. If you want to edit anything, you need to pause it, then go in and edit the email. And then after you've made whatever edits you want to, you then have to restart. So we'll pretend that I've edited this in some way. So there's the newsletter, and there's the Sphinx. And then we'll save and continue. But we need to then restart that newsletter. So don't forget to restart it. So it's paused at the moment. You can see that it says there, and it's got the little pause icon. So what you need to do is then resume that newsletter so that it will go back out as part of that automation. You can pause everything while you edit something if there's been some fundamental or catastrophic change, and then you can then restart everything when you're ready to start over. So just because you've set up an automation doesn't mean you have to then leave it running forever. You've still got control around that, depending upon what it is that you want to work with. Does anybody have any questions that you want me to cover? Or are we happy that that's enough? Because I've only got a very short amount of time to cover off extra bits and pieces. Come back. Okay. More than it's oh, excellent. Oh, good, Yvonne. It's just taken me a while to get back to the comments there, guys. I had a very blank look on my face. Excellent. And that was just sort of a very brief overview, even though it probably was quite a long overview. There is so much in Mailchimp. It can do so much for you for very little cost and very little expense. It is a pretty cool bit of software. But I shall wrap it up there for now, and I will speak to you tomorrow if you're doing the review challenge. And yeah, you can always give me more questions if you have any more. So I'll say bye-bye for now.